Let's hope for the best. So who is the Zoom user?
I'm having trouble hearing you. I'm sorry.
No, I'm just trying to find out who the other two people are on the phone. Grace and the Zoom user. Zoom user. Second.
Okay.
Nope, thought somebody was there.
Luxembourg European Soloists. It's conducted by Christophe Kai, featuring Jean Wood playing piano. The Grand Variations on a Theme by Count Gallenberg. Inspired by Louise Barrock. Right here on Classical New York, WQXR 105 FM and New York 90.3 FM. WQXW Austin. HD2 New York. Here's some music by Domenico Scarlatti. D major sonata.
All right, so if Zoom user, can you please identify yourself?
Hi, my name is Grace. I'm a student at Lehman College. I'm just observing the process, and I need to attend a community meeting that they discuss health issues.
Well, God
So
willing,
that's
we will have a quorum, because we do not have a quorum yet, but thank you so much for joining us nonetheless.
Say that again, please.
We're waiting for a quorum to join us so that we can formally go through the agenda. But,
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Thank you. All right.
And Miriam, pleasure to see you. Again, Zoom user, can you please identify yourself?
Oh, my apologies. My name is Jasmine Olivo. I actually live in the neighborhood in Riverdale, but I'm also a graduate student, and I am here to observe, as well as Grace, the community board meeting, and hopefully I can proceed with attending more.
Again, welcome. Unfortunately, we cannot fully proceed with some of our agenda items until we have a quorum. We're waiting for one other person who's on the committee. But we will be discussing some things this evening. Please, thank you so much for joining us.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Nakia?
Nakaya. I live in a neighborhood, and I am just here for my graduate class as well to just observe.
Okay, so we have three observers. Thank you so much for joining us. Why don't we, until we can approve the committee meeting minutes or our budget priorities, Miriam, can you give us a little bit of background on MJHS and what it's doing in our particular community board?
On the community board or in the community?
In the
I-
community in general.
Yeah, so MJHS is a very vast, not-for-profit health system. It was founded over 100 years ago by the four Brooklyn ladies. You might have heard about them in TV commercials. They saw a need for people who were sick or who had nobody to take care of them, and they started to take care of them. And from there, it grew based on the Jewish mission of taking care of your neighbor, of taking care of your loved ones. Now we are a very large health system. We own the Isabella Nursing Home in Washington Heights. We own the Menorah Nursing Home in Manhattan Beach. We also have a very robust hospice and palliative care program for at-home hospice, as well as in different hospitals where we have inpatient care units. I've been working in the hospice department for 20 years, and I'm a liaison to the community for families who are facing a very serious diagnosis, sometimes unfortunately facing end of life. And I meet with patients and families. I explain to them what the benefits are, how they can access home hospice, how they will be supported, what kind of medical equipment will come under the Medicare entitlement or the entitlement of a private healthcare insurance. So that is my role. I'm a community liaison. We also own Elder Plan Home First, which is a Medicare Advantage program. And I live in this neighborhood. I've been here for 40 years. And
Wow.
I also reach out a lot and support Holocaust survivors in the Jewish community, as well as the general and larger community in the area and in Manhattan.
So Miriam, from what I'm hearing from you, then tell me if I got it right, is that the nearest hospice or institution that you run is in Washington Heights, is that correct?
We run the nursing home, and residents either in the nursing home for skilled nursing care, or who are in rehab, who are dealing with a very serious illness or terminal illness, can get the added layer of palliative care and hospice care wherever they live. And if that means they live in a nursing home like Isabella, we will come in and we will give that added layer of support, work with the team, caregiver team, educate them, and work together to support families, as well as obviously the patient throughout
So
their lifespan.
I hate to put you on the spot, Miriam, but until we have a quorum here, but I do know, and particularly for the students that are with us today, the issue of palliative care and hospice care is something that is gaining more and more importance in a society, particularly as we have the boomer generation, which I happen to be part of, aging out. For two reasons. One, the boomer population is usually part of that sandwich population where we're taking both care of our children and our parents. And I know that my experience with MJHS was in Queens. Both my in-laws really benefited tremendously from hospice care, home hospice care. It is probably one of the most profound experiences in our family. Besides birth, it's the end of life care. My father-in-law passed away shortly before COVID, and my mother-in-law passed away during sort of the tail end of COVID about 1.75 years ago, both under the care of hospice care. Can you describe a little bit to us what hospice care is about, and how it is seen as a tremendous boon and benefit to many families?
Yes. We call it the most underutilized healthcare service. People are afraid. They hear hospice. They think we lock up the patient someplace and we throw away the key and we don't take care of them. Hospice is an entitlement. It can be provided wherever somebody lives, in their home, as I mentioned, in a nursing home, assisted living, in a shelter. If people live with their relatives, we can go and we provide it at bedside. There are two criteria for admission. Two doctors need to agree that they wouldn't be surprised if in 6 months these patients were no longer alive if the illness progresses in its natural way. That doesn't mean that the illness always kicks in full force. We have people who are living longer than 6 months. They get recertified. They still have a same serious illness, very often a terminal illness, but they can stay on as long as we can observe a decline. Home hospice provides for a nurse to manage the care. She or he are under the supervision of a hospice certified and palliative care certified physician, and all services are being brought and managed at home. It's a multi-dimensional support. It's interdisciplinary, by which I mean that a social worker is also involved, a chaplain is involved for spiritual care if people want it. The medication and durable equipment like commode or hospice bed, hospital bed, or a cane, and all the medication that is connected to the hospice diagnosis is covered either by Medicare, by Medicaid, or by private insurance. So it's really a wonderful benefit to have. We also then offer bereavement support to the family for 13 months after the death of a patient. And why 13 months? Because it takes us 1 year past all the firsts, the first birthday without the person, the first Thanksgiving without the person, and the first anniversary of their passing. That's why it's 13 months of bereavement. A social worker can help with funeral arrangements, with psychosocial concerns, with expressions of despair or feeling abandoned by their spiritual force, by God, by whoever, by Buddha, whatever they feel. And we can just sit and listen. We don't always have to give advice. A lot of the hospice benefit is just to accompany. Of course, a nurse comes to the house. She adjusts the medication, again, under the supervision of a hospice physician. And she also trains family caregivers or hired help in how to give the medication, when to turn a patient, how to keep them from rolling over, how to deal with constipation, how to apply creams if there is an itch, all the things that creep up when somebody is gravely ill. So hospice is really comfort care when there are no curative methods, when people are no longer going for treatment. That's what hospice care is. Palliative care is a consultative service, very similar services, but people are still allowed and encouraged to go for curative treatment. Sometimes the cure causes problems. Sometimes the cure creates blisters in the mouth, or sometimes people get terrible diarrhea from the medication that is being given to address a serious but not necessarily life-limiting illness. And so palliative care confirms with the physician who is treating this patient about how to best treat it, shortness of breath, oxygen, different medication. But it is the primary physician or the specialist who takes care of that patient, and palliative care addresses all symptoms and also distress, anxiety, issues with dialysis. Sometimes people have to go for dialysis and they're very fatigued. That's what palliative care does. It stays on the case until the situation has been stabilized. Then the consultants withdraw, and if they need it again, they can be called again. And it is covered by most insurances, including Medicare, Medicaid, but there may be a copay, just like with any other special consultative services. That's the difference between hospice and palliative care. Palliative care allows parallel curative treatment, and hospice comes at a point where people say, this is not working for me, or the doctor says, we're not being able to get on top of your illness. Would you consider hospice?
Thank you so much, Miriam. And I know that, just to lift up what you said before, my mother-in-law was actually taken off of hospice care twice. She was, as we say, a very tough soul. She was a Holocaust survivor from, was in one of the camps during World War II. And the running joke in the family was that when the angel of death came to the door and looked inside, so who was there, he said, I'm not going near that woman today. She was a tough cookie. However, when she did pass, can you begin to describe for us what end of life might look like under hospice care, as opposed to just dying in a hospital bed?
Well, hospice is comfort care, and we want the end of life to be comfortable and dignified and respectful and peaceful. And that means for many people being at home, no machines are beeping, no monitors. If you are taking heavy duty pain medication and you're sleeping a lot, that's up to the patient. You could sleep, or you can be up and around. You can be in your own nightgown, in your robe. You're in a surrounding that you're familiar with, especially for people with dementia. It can be very traumatic if they are suddenly in a new environment and they don't recognize the voices of the people who come in and take care of them. The rounds happen very often at 6 o'clock in the morning, just when somebody's falling asleep. So at home, the nurse will come more often as somebody is declining. Sometimes a patient needs to be suctioned because they can't cough out the mucus. We can do all that at home. And we also tell the caregivers, whether they're hired help or whether they are family caregivers or family of choice, what to expect. And this might happen in the next 24 hours. We've seen it with other patients. There's also a 24-hour on-call number. So if people are confused or stuck or frightened, they can call that number. Either the nurse on the other line will tell them next steps, or a nurse who is assigned to be on call overnight will get in a cab and she'll come and she'll sit with the patient and alleviate the crisis or the dying process. And then once death comes, the nurse will keep the body nicely positioned, because rigor mortis sets in and we want them to be in a dignified, respectful position. And we can issue a death certificate very, very quickly, which is helpful for people of different religions, where burial happens very quickly, or also some people who want to be transported back to their country of origin, and they need to go to the airport. So it's important that the death certificate is electronically filled out and is available. So the next steps, either towards burial, or even some people like to keep the body at home, depending on culture and tradition and religion. We try to incorporate that, and we respond to the needs of each patient individually.
Thank you so much, Miriam. I know it's a very difficult subject for us, and really addressing this in a Makia, Grace, and Jasmine, as you, obviously you're graduate students. I don't know if you are entering into the world of healthcare. I've been involved myself for, wow, over 40 years as a member of a board of a federally qualified healthcare center, hospitals, and then personally, I know that with my mother, I had to have that difficult conversation with her. She broke her hip, and things were not progressing the way that we had hoped they would progress. While in the hospital, the primary physician observed some other healthcare issues that were rapidly degenerating, and I had to have that conversation with my mother, describing, you know, what the next step is, and the fact that she was going to be going to hospice in the next few hours. She was a remarkable human being, and said, "Okay, let's get this moving. Let's go to the next stage." She was really that kind of human being. However, they did exactly as you described, dignified. There was some medication given that would slow her breathing so that she would pass in a comfortable way rather than a frightened and frenetic way. Few people tend to think of end-of-life care as part of the healthcare journey, and it really is a very important one of it. I know that most people who are taught healthcare in the context of America, and certainly Western medicine, are taught the art of healing. And while the art of healing is improving every single day, and the interventions that are available are just absolutely remarkable. I mean, I get briefed all the time. I sit on the board of, as I said, also of NYU Langone, and I get briefed all the time about what the latest new interventions are. However, eventually something comes along, and the ability to end life, as you put it so well, Miriam, in a dignified fashion, is a powerful, powerful thing, both for the person who's transitioning and for the family. We have to admit that had it not been for MJHS, for both of my in-laws, it would have been a very difficult journey. The rabbi that was assigned to it were Jewish and observant. So the rabbi that was assigned to it was a remarkable human being, and performed both funerals, one during COVID, which was rather difficult. So I'm just wondering if Grace or Jasmine or Makia have any questions or thoughts that they'd like to, Barbara, don't go shy either, but have any questions or thoughts that they'd like to put out there as they observe us going through and being educated on a fact of healthcare and a fact of providing care to folks that is often a very difficult discussion, but I think one of the most important that you'll have.
I'd like to add that I have experience in an ICU, so I've had to deal with or work alongside palliative care. And I think one of the very important things that I've learned through patients who are in end of life of care is that they keep their autonomy, and that's very important for the patient and for the family. It's also very beneficial for us nurses and doctors alike, and just the whole care team. Sometimes the family and the actual patient have differing views. So palliative kind of helps us bridge that gap and helps them understand the wants and desires of the actual patient, which isn't always aligning with the family. So I've seen that, and that has helped a lot. And I actually do appreciate that this is being held, because there are a lot of people that just don't know. They just don't know that this is available to them. And it's really important. And I appreciate that this is being held because the information is being put out there.
Yeah, so thank you. I want to add two things. One is that I go to the community and I try to educate community members, everybody, about the need to have these discussions early on, not when there is a health crisis, but to think about what are my wishes? How did I live? And how do I want to die? And very often that is very much in a balance. If you've lived a full life with autonomy and with values and traditions, that's how you want to end your life. So talking about this is very difficult, and there are cultural barriers, and there are conspiracies of silence within families. There are differences in families. One child wants mom to have aggressive treatment, one child is not. It's up to me, the patient, to make these decisions and to make one's wishes known, both in a documented healthcare proxy, in discussions with a physician, and in family meetings. And I go to many families and I help hold these conversations because people shy away from these conversations. The children, and I mean adult children, don't want to bring it up lest mom, dad, grandma, aunt, and uncle think, oh, I hope for them to die soon. And the parents don't want to bring it up. They don't want to burden their adult children. It's a sad topic. So that is very important. And that's what my colleagues and I and our team go, and we speak to different groups in churches, in synagogues, in daycare centers, to interns in hospitals, to palliative care teams about the need to have advanced care conversations and document one's wishes. The other thing, Rabbi, is when somebody is gasping for air and has air hunger towards end of life, we give the medication not to slow the breathing, but to take away the anxiety of this feeling, I can't catch enough air, I can't. So we do not hasten death, we don't suppress breathing, but we take away some of the anxiety. If we have to medically with pharmaceuticals, we do a little bit of that, very titrated. And also with just being there and saying, you're not alone, you're in a safe place. I love you, I forgive you. Are there things you want to say? Do you want to have music? And these conversations have to happen way upstream. And we're not doing anybody a favor if we think it's a taboo and we can't talk about it. And having these conversations doesn't bring about death. That's a superstition. And I know it from my own father who lived in Europe. I was a caregiver to somebody who lived 6,000 miles away. And when I brought up the topic, I said, Dad, what would you want done? You'll know what to do. That's not helpful because I don't want to second guess. What would you want? Or my sister has a different idea, or my cousins have. So it's a tough conversation to have, but whoever is in graduate school, if you're becoming social workers or if you're becoming nurses, these are conversations that you have to be able to initiate and to stay in the conversation with patients, with respect, and let a patient speak. And let's hear what they have to say. Because as I always say, I'm the boss of my own life. And we need to give that respect and that option to everybody, whether they're old and young. And we saw it with COVID, people in their 30s died. You don't have to be old to think ahead. And you can change your plans. You can revoke your health care plan, your proxy. Maybe you don't trust the person whom you selected to be your agent anymore, or they are have a touch of dementia and you need to change it. And also one's wishes change. At 60, I had different wishes than I am going to have at 80. So it's good to revisit it and to help people have that conversation. And that's what I'm appealing to our young colleagues here. You have to get comfortable with the topic, and it's hard the first few times, but just be in the conversation. The autonomy that you mentioned is so important. Let the patient tell you what he or she wants.
So I really, if there's no other questions, and Miriam, I'm actually glad I put you on the spot a little bit because what the kind of information you just gave, particularly for the 3 students, is very, very powerful. As you again enter, however you're entering into the healthcare world, This is an important thing, as Miriam said, to become comfortable with, to come to terms with, and to be able to impart to people as you encounter them. Because people are on journeys in life, and as we, whether you're older and you're at the end of a full life, or you're younger and something has appeared before you that was wholly unexpected, or sometimes expected, you know, because of pre-existing conditions, to be able to give them a pathway that's going to give them, as I said before, a sense of dignity, a sense of comfort, a sense of that they are not alone, and deal with the natural issue of fear. It is, to me, one of the most, and having experienced it, as I mentioned before, one of the most profound pieces of the healthcare world that is unknown, yet for all of us, because this is ultimately what happens to all of us, for all of us is probably one of the most important. So thank you, Miriam, I really deeply appreciate it. And hopefully the three observers tonight felt it was really worth their time coming in to join us. I do have to say that we do not have a quorum. Barbara and I get used to that. We're gonna have to, I've had a little talk with the chair of the board, the community board. We're gonna have to figure that one out. However, there's a couple of things we can do. One is we cannot approve the committee minutes. However, it's something that's gonna have to go into the records nonetheless. Two, the report is, and I'll give a very simple report at this point in time. I have spoken to the chair about the fact that we have not been able to achieve a quorum in the past 3 meetings. It's something that they're taking a look at. There is a committee of the board that's taking a look at it, and believe me, I understand busy. I got that part down really well. So I think that it's something that we're gonna have to look at sort of systemically within the community board, and how committees like this either are combined with other committees to ensure that there's enough people coming to a committee meeting to make it worthwhile. I know that Miriam just did a magnificent job of being a pinch hitter of a presenter, but I'm a little loath to bring in some of the other presenters that I know and work with, because you don't want them to carve out time of a busy schedule and then come and not be part of, really be as useful as they possibly could. The other thing that we need to be able to do, and we can't vote on it, but I'm gonna have to enter into it in any event, is where we would like expenditures to happen from the community board budget that reflect the needs of our committee. And the area that we've been thinking most about is mental health. Mental health is a plague. It is an unmet epidemic. It is a pandemic, but certainly within our society, and particularly with all the stuff that's going on, I don't care what your politics are. There's no way in the world you're not feeling traumatized, or like you're feeling you're on a roller coaster without any safety belt right now. It's just how society is, and include that all with all the other pieces of what's going on. I know that there are young people who are in schools right now who are children of migrants that are afraid of coming home and not finding their parents home when they get home. There are people who are in that position themselves, whether here undocumented or totally legally right now. I mean, it is remarkable. Again, not a political statement. It's just the trauma that people are undergoing is remarkable. I was with a group on the Upper West Side today that's doing work trying to find jobs for those who do have legal status and work status, and it's becoming more and more difficult. People don't want to hire people who are migrants, even if they have perfectly legal green cards or otherwise, because of things that have been going on. Certainly another effort that we're involved deeply in, I know in Brooklyn, is the issue of gun violence. And one of the most remarkable things that has been done by another healthcare system, Northwell, where I serve as an advisor on their interfaith committee. In Northwell, Michael Dowling was the head of that entire system. I think one of the largest systems in the Northeast, by the way. Northwell has made a commitment, a deep, deep commitment to gun violence. And it's not just the kind of gun violence that we read about all the time, unfortunately all the time in the papers of mass shootings or shootings in the community. The largest number of people that are victims of gun violence are suicides. More than 50% of the gun violence that happens in our country are suicides. And of course, that is a deep, deep mental health issue. So there are a number of mental health issues. Unfortunately, the Bronx in general and is underserved in a mental health fashion. I know the borough president has really had it as a priority of hers to try and bring better healthcare, mental health care services. What we just talked about a moment ago about the end of life care is ultimately a mental health care journey. You know, people's mental health care that to the time when they transition is radically important. So we're going to make a recommendation that funding that the community board has access to be focused on somewhat on mental health care, whatever that means. And however that is transforming within the context of our society, it's something extremely important to us. That's the old business. There is no new business at this point in time because we really haven't been able to conduct a quorum-based meeting in several months. And that's something, again, that we're going to have to take care of. And I know that we're 35 minutes into our meeting. You have a question, Mary? Is that, oh, it's my hand. I'm sorry. That was my hand. It's me with the pointer. So I'd just like to find out from Jasmine or Grace or Makia, was this something that you felt was helpful to you in spending time with us this evening?
Yeah, this is Grace. It was very helpful. It's very informational. I'm so excited to be here, especially Miriam, to add to what you said about making decisions before you get to the point that you cannot make decisions for yourself. It's very important. I'm a nurse. I work in message unit. And sometimes this becomes a problem. The patient is at a point that he or she cannot make a decision for him or herself, and the family members cannot decide. That, like you said, this child want this, another child want that, and then sometimes it becomes a fight between them. This one will say, I'm the proxy. That one will say, I'm the proxy, yet they don't have any legal document proving that they are the proxies. And oftentimes it becomes a problem. Doctors don't know what to do. The patient is suffering, yet the family members want everything to be done. The family members keeping the patient full code to the end. Sometimes the patient code, and even at the point we're doing CPR and intubation and everything, you see that it doesn't worth it. The patient is suffering. The patient needs to go. But then doctors will reach out to family members and they say, oh, you guys should do whatever it takes to keep the patient alive. And it is heartbreaking when it gets to that point. So I'm glad, and this was very helpful. I hope people will take advantage in the community to attend the meeting more to get such information. Thank you.
Well, thank you, and from your mouth to God's ears, so to speak, but from at least people's ears. So I want to thank you all for being with us this month, for taking out that time to hear some powerful information, and that when the time it does come for all of us to access it, the work of MJHS, my experience with them, as I mentioned before, but as a community organizer, I worked when it still was mainly on in Borough Park and right next to Maimonides Hospital. That was their main main mothership, so to speak. It's radically important, really radically important. So I want to thank you all for being with us this evening. For those who are about to celebrate Passover, you should have a joyous holiday. For those who are about to celebrate Easter, or some of my friends call it Resurrection, may you have a joyous holiday, and may we bring joy into our lives in general.
Thank you.
In these difficult times, just bring some joy into your life. Put that smile on your face.
Thank you. I just
Thank
have a question. I'm sorry. The quorum, I've never been in a community board meeting. What does that mean? Is that there are not enough people in the meeting?
So we have, right now, 6 members of the committee.
Okay,
And only 2 are attending. Barbara is attending via Zoom, and I'm in person at the community board. Barbara, in this particular era, during the height of COVID, anyone could, on the board, could attend in Zoom. There's been some change in that recently, so the at least half of the people on the committee, or when there's a full board, have to attend in order for there to be a quorum for us to be able to vote.
oh,
So
okay.
that is really what it's about, and unfortunately, we haven't had that participation. Now, last year, we had no problem. We were popping at the seams. So this year seems to be a problem. It's something that needs to be addressed. And I can only imagine it's just because everyone is busy, everyone's crazy, and at the end of the day, that they have other things that take priority in their lives. But thank you, Jasmine, for asking that. I want to thank the students in particular for choosing this as a pathway in their education as well. It is a very, having served on boards, I've never been a healthcare provider, but I've served on boards of both HMOs and hospitals and FQHCs over the years. And we are deeply grateful for all of these who do the provision of healthcare. It is a right. It is not a privilege. Healthcare is a right. And I believe that you guys make that right, as they say, right. Thank you so much. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, bye. One more question. How do I get access to the recordings for today?
Okay, so what you do is just contact the community board afterwards, and they will email it to you, okay?
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Grace. Good night, everybody.
Good
Good
night.
night.